everybody. April 27th, 2018. This is episode 2 of the Tech Guru podcast. My name is Frick, the Tech Guru. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, let's thank our sponsors, Alpha1Studios.com, video production and DJ services. If you need a DJ for a corporate event, staff party, wedding, visit Alpha1Studios.com. Pricing and contact information is there. Also, this week, I want to thank Squeaky Clean Lawn Care. They specialize in weekly mowing, garden bed maintenance, lawn care, rough landscaping. They want to make you, it's their goal to make you, their customer, their number one priority. So if you need any of that work done, call Squeaky Clean Lawn Care, 506-333-8104, or visit Squeaky Clean, spelled Kleen, lawncare.com. So thanks for our sponsors for helping us out this week. Again, I'm giving away free sponsors for my first 5, maybe 10 episodes. So if you're a local business and you want to be advertised on my podcast for free, just send me a message and I will do that for you. So first thing I want to talk about, last night I went to go see the new Avengers movie, Avengers Infinity War, and all I can say is it was absolutely amazing. I don't want to say too much, obviously, because it just came out. The official launch day was today, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I can tell you that it was absolutely amazing. It was exciting. It was hilarious. It was even emotional. This Avengers definitely told a better story than the last one. I found the last one extremely good and extremely entertaining. Lots of action and excitement. But this one I found was more story-oriented. Still a lot of action in it as well. A lot of cool scenes. And definitely a lot of star power. But it was an awesome movie, and that's all I'll say about it. And I would highly recommend going to see it. It's been a while since I've been at the movie theater with a packed house, and everybody on the edge of their seat. There were certain scenes of the movie you could hear the people gasp or scream. It was incredible. I also took my 7-year-old son, and he really enjoyed it as well. So that's all I'll say about that. Highly recommended. Definitely go see it. Avengers Infinity War. So what else is going on? The hockey playoffs are in full swing, and obviously I'm a big fan of hockey as a Canadian. I was going for the Leafs this year. I'm normally a Rangers fan, but I was going for the Leafs because it's been so long since they have won it, and they have a big fan base here where I live in New Brunswick. So I was really going for them. They were eliminated yesterday, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago, and the second round of the playoffs is in full swing. I watched the Las Vegas Golden Knights game last night. And, wow, did you guys see their pregame show? It was insane. And I thought Montreal had a really good pregame show, but Las Vegas definitely outdid them last night. They did a full pregame show. I won't explain it, but go look it up on YouTube. It was absolutely incredible. And then they beat the San Jose Sharks 7-0. So that is the bandwagon I am jumping on now. I'm gonna cheer for the Las Vegas Golden Knights since Toronto is now out of it. So good luck to them, and good luck to all your teams that you're cheering for. So one thing I want to do with the podcast every week is I want to kind of fill you in on the news as far as gadgets go, as far as tech goes. And I'll cover a couple news articles that I read throughout the week in the tech world and kind of explain them to you in a way that hopefully is easy to understand. So the first one I came across this week was to do with Amazon. And Amazon this week announced this week that they are going to start delivery service to your car. And this is the same company that they're very ambitious with stuff like this. As you may have heard, they are going to start delivering with drones. And the way that works is their package will be handled by drones. And what you do is you print out a little thing from your printer and put it on your lawn. The drone will detect it, and they will land there and deliver your package. And it says, depending on how close you are to the delivery warehouses, it could take 4 hours to get your package. So they're really taking that to the next level. Now they want to deliver to your cars. And here's what the article says. Amazon is expanding its in-home delivery service called Key to include deliveries to trunks and back seats of cars. The service is available only to Amazon Prime members in 37 cities who have a 2015 or newer Chevy, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, or Volvo with an active OnStar or Volvo On-Call account. Essentially, these are already connected cars that can be remotely unlocked, in this case for package delivery, which Amazon promises within a 4-hour window. The shopper has to confirm that they've parked within range of the delivery location in a publicly accessible area and can track the progress through the Amazon Key app. And you may be wondering why they're doing this. And it says here, Amazon has devoted much effort to figure out how to stop its packages from being stolen from porches and public spaces, which is costing the company a pretty penny. With in-car service, Amazon can use shoppers' cars as secure mail drop boxes. So not really a bad idea. A great idea by Amazon. I hope they implement it. It's certainly something I would support. Right now, of course, it's only in the United States, so I can't take advantage of it. But definitely a good idea by Amazon, so props to them. Another article I saw this week, and it kind of goes along with what I talked about last week with Apple phones and Android phones. And it says that Apple has lost $64 billion in stock value as Wall Street is in full panic mode on iPhone demand. And what has happened is basically iPhone has made too many iPhone 10 phones, and they're just not selling. And I talked about this a little bit last week. It's an amazing phone, don't get me wrong, but it is priced way too high. It's not that people don't want the phone, it's that it's way too expensive. And the sales are just not there for Apple. And Apple's a little bit stubborn with their pricing, as you know. It takes a little while. Usually they don't drop the price of their phones until the next year, and their new phones come out, and they're just not selling. Just to kind of give you an idea of how much, well, an iPhone 10 costs for the cheapest model, it costs $1,000, and that's $1,000 American, so about $1,200 Canadian. And it only costs Apple $370.25 to make. So they're trying to get too much profit on each of these devices, as far as I'm concerned. One thing that Sony did when they launched their PlayStation 3 back in 2007, I think it was, is they were actually taking a loss on each unit they were selling, meaning that it cost more to make the machine than they were selling it for. Now, obviously, this is not a great business practice for any company, but they were willing to take that hit so they would sell more, and then they would make the money back on software sales. And I'm not suggesting that Apple sell their iPhone 10 for less than $370, but you have to bring it down a little bit so that the average consumer can get their hands on it, and try and make up your money elsewhere. I mean, they have so many avenues that Apple makes money through their iTunes sales, through Apple Music, through their apps. So it's not like they'd be losing any money. They're going to probably end up losing more money by not selling these phones and having all this surplus. They've already announced actually that they have stopped producing the iPhone 10. So meaning that they've made so many now that they have so many extras that they feel that they can supply themselves until the next iPhone is released. So that's news coming out of Apple. $64 billion in stock. I mean, full panic mode. You don't have to worry. Apple is still going to be fine, I'm sure. I know that's a big hit to them, but they're a big enough company where they'll weather this storm and continue on. So, my topic this week is electric vehicles. And one of my passions besides gadgets and technology is cars. I've always been huge into cars, whether they're gas or electric. And I've always had my favorites. BMW is one of my favorite lines of cars. I've driven quite a few nice cars. I lived in the States for a little while, as I mentioned before. While I was down there, I drove a couple Ferraris. I drove a Lamborghini. A couple years ago, when my brother-in-law went to Toronto, we rented Ferraris for the day. Drove them around. I'm a huge car guy. So I was in California about a month and a half ago. And I'm really interested in these new Teslas, these electric vehicles. And I visited a Tesla dealership, I checked them out, and I also noticed that in California, the Tesla car is huge. A lot of people have them. And one thing I also noticed is that when you drive a Tesla, or any electric vehicle for that matter, you're allowed to drive in the carpool lane without actually carpooling anybody, which is a huge advantage in its own, because even though we were staying in Anaheim, we drove into Los Angeles almost every day that we were there. And the traffic, of course, was just absolutely insane. But if you can go in the carpool lane, you save several minutes. And having a Tesla, I think, would be worth it just for that advantage alone. So I noticed a lot down there. I really like the new Tesla. And I've decided to pre-order one. I pre-ordered a Tesla Model 3. And the Model 3 is Tesla's answer to affordable electric vehicles. And I'll get to the prices a little bit later, and if electric vehicles are actually worth it. That's what I really want to discuss. But I was down in California. I visited the Tesla dealership, really liked it. and I pre-ordered one. So when you pre-order one of these Model 3s, first of all, they're in huge demand. So you have to put $1,000 down, and then it can take up to 18 months before you actually get your car. So they told me that in about a year's time, I'm going to get an email, and then that's when I go into the Tesla website and I get to customize my Tesla. I get to pick the color. I get to pick the size of the battery. I get to pick whether I want the rear-wheel drive only model or if I want the all-wheel drive model. And then within 6 months after that, the car will be delivered to me here in Canada. So that's the process of when you pre-order. I've decided to pre-order one because, I want to save on gas, and I'll get to that in a second. So just to kind of give you the brief overview of why I'm making this jump. Now, most people, and I've been asked this before, if I'm doing this because of the environment. And that is the reason why some people buy an electric vehicle. But if I'm being completely honest with you, that's not the reason at all that I'm buying an electric vehicle. It's not that I don't care about the environment, of course, but to me, that's just a bonus of having an electric vehicle. I actually like the electric vehicle, the Tesla specifically because of the technology behind it, and of course, I want to save money on gas. And if you think about how a gas engine, a regular gas vehicle works, burn the gas, create an explosion in the pistons, causing them to move at high speeds. It sends a rotary motion to the crankshaft, which in turn goes to the axles, which turns the wheels, right? This has been the same for decades. Not hundreds of years, obviously, but over 100 years, we've been using internal combustion engines. And it's really hard for me to believe that we are still using the same technology. I mean, obviously it's advanced in some ways, but the same premise for so long that it hasn't advanced. I mean, if you look at all the other areas of technology with computers and televisions, how far they have advanced, the car really hasn't advanced that much. And I know that what a lot of you are thinking, it has a lot to do with politics, it has a lot to do with the oil companies, but now more than ever, especially in Canada, where we are being introduced to this carbon tax, and our Prime Minister is raising, because of this carbon tax, the gas prices are getting to unreal prices. I mean, over in British Columbia, I think it was like $1.63 right now a liter, which is absolutely insane. And the thing that's really silly about it is that barrel prices for oil are actually much lower than they usually are. So it's all these ridiculous taxes that we're paying. So now is a good time to think about buying an electric car. The way that electric vehicle works is actually much simpler than a gas engine vehicle. So you have the battery pack, which gives energy to the electric induction motor, and it moves the wheels. The motor is actually, now, don't quote me on this, I've done a little bit of research on this. I'm not a mechanic by any means, but the motor is actually attached directly to the drive shaft or to the axle, and it's right underneath the car, meaning that you have a trunk in the back as well as a trunk in the front because there's no big engine taking up all that space. So it's a lot less of a process to actually make an electric vehicle move. Battery to the induction engine makes the wheels turn because the engine's right there. So if you compare it to a regular vehicle, or the vehicles that we've had around for so long, a combustion engine or a combustion car has over 30,000 total parts. 10,000 of those are moving parts. So 10,000 moving parts that have the chance to wear and tear, and chances are they're going to have to be replaced sometime over the life of the vehicle. 10,000 moving parts. An electric vehicle has 150 or less. So a lot less parts, moving parts, a lot less that, in my opinion, can go wrong. And and this includes the tires, this includes the power windows, the seats, the air conditioning. Those are all considered moving parts, and an electric vehicle has less than 150 of those compared to a combustion engine's 10,000. So a lot less stuff to go that goes into actually powering them. So the big question here is, are they worth it though? Electric vehicles can be expensive if you look at the price of the vehicle itself. Just to give you a breakdown, we have the Chevy Bolt, which is about $38,000. We have the Ford Focus, which is Ford Focus electric version, $30,000. We have the Nissan Leaf, which was up until recently, up until the Tesla Model 3, was the highest selling electric vehicle around, $31,500. And then we have the Tesla Model 3, the one I pre-ordered, that starts at $35,000. Now, those prices are in US as well. Now, the first thing I have to talk about after the price of the car itself is the tax rebates that you get with these. In Canada, you can get up to $4,000. In the United States, there are some states that will pay up to $14,000 subsidy for buying an electric vehicle. So, I mean, that's a huge chunk. That's a huge rebate, huge price, huge chunk off the price of the car. Now, this is one reason why I kind of wanted to be an early adopter of this. In my area here, I've only seen 2 Teslas. There are a few electric vehicles around here. The charging stations aren't really readily available in my area yet. Of course, they will be. Tesla did announce in New Brunswick that they're going to put in their own charging stations. You're going to notice more stores have them there. But one of the reasons I want to be an early adopter to electric vehicles here in my area is so that I do get this government subsidy, this government tax rebate, because chances are when everybody starts migrating to electric vehicles, that will probably go away. And some people believe that they're going to actually stop making gas engines by 2025. I think that's a little ambitious. I think it'll be a little longer than that. But some people actually think that within the next 6-7 years that we could be looking at all electric vehicles on the manufacturing lines. So to continue with the question, are they worth it? So you have the price of the car yourself. You do get a government subsidy. But how much does it cost to charge it? And from all the research that I've seen and all the websites I've visited, to charge your vehicle, to charge your electric vehicle, you're looking at about $2.50 Canadian to charge it. And a single charge can get you, on average, probably about 200 to 400 kilometers, depending on the vehicle. And so that's about $700 for every 20,000 kilometers, which is obviously really, really good. I mean, it obviously depends where you are and the charge or the price that you pay per kilowatt. So you have to, do a lot of research. I know when I was looking, the places like Hawaii, it's not, really feasible. If you just look at the price of charging your vehicle, it's going to be around the same as buying gas. But here in where I am, you're looking at probably $700 to $800 for every 20,000 kilometers, which is obviously really, really good. Now, I was speaking with my mechanic friend. His name is Rick Daly, and he said that for a gas engine, the average person is going to spend roughly $1,000 to $1,200 every year on general maintenance to their vehicle, and that's not including tires. So $1,000 a year, $1,200 a year, and that's for a car that is 5 years old or over. Usually, most things that need to be changed, outside of warranty products, it's not going to be that much under 5 years. But after 5 years, you're looking at $1,000 every year for maintenance. So these include things like your oil changes, your fan belts, your air filters, your timing belts, your gaskets, your cylinder heads, spark plugs, etc., etc. An electric vehicle needs none of these things. So all of that money that you would spend, that $1,000, you do not have to put into an electric vehicle. Electric vehicles don't use oil. They don't have cylinders. They don't have head gaskets. They don't have spark plugs. They don't have timing belts. So you save money on all of those things. And they even have something called regenerative brakes, meaning that when you need to brake, it's actually the engine that's doing most of the work, not brake pads. So you're going to save a lot of money on brake pads as well, which is one of the main things that has to be replaced on a regular vehicle. As far as things you do have to replace on an electric vehicle, you do have to replace the batteries. They say you have to replace the batteries every 10 to 12 years. This does cost a couple $1,000s, usually around $5,000 or possibly a little less. Maybe once electric vehicles become more popular, the price of batteries will be a lot cheaper. So you do have to look at maintenance costs for that. But after everything, if you want the bottom line, are electric vehicles worth it? Yes, they absolutely are, if you can get over the initial price. And as I mentioned, they're all around the $30,000 range American. There are electric vehicles. The Tesla Model S can be up to $140,000. The Tesla Model X, which is their 7-seater SUV, can be up to $140,000. So you can obviously get to the expensive end of the spectrum, but to get an electric vehicle that you want to get to work and back without using any gas at all, then yes, electric vehicles are most definitely worth it. And I can't wait for another 17 months until I can get my hands on my own Tesla and start saving money on gas, because right now I'm driving a Land Rover, and I'm getting about 300 kilometers for every $60 I put in gas. So really not feasible right now, and I'm excited to be able to get my hands on my Tesla. So that's my my observation anyway with electric vehicles. Like I say, when I was in California, they were everywhere, and Tesla is based in California, so they're a lot easier to get them there. The Model 3 is the best-selling Tesla and best-selling electric vehicle ever, and I think there's so many people pre-ordered it. Tens of thousands of people pre-ordered this car. They put their $1,000 down, and they're just waiting to get theirs delivered. And I'm kind of thankful, actually, that it is going to take a little bit longer for me to get mine, because then they can work out the kinks. I know that there was some issues with the early models, so I'm happy that by the time I get mine, they should have all that figured out and ready to go. So that's my take on electric vehicles. I'm sure I'll be talking about this in a future episode as well once we learn more information, but that's the initial breakdown of electric vehicles and how much they cost. So that's pretty much my episode today. Before I leave, I wanted to, this is another thing I'm going to do every episode, and it's going to be about recommendations from you guys, the people who listen to me. I wanted to know what you guys watch on Netflix. Now, me personally, I've never binge watched. I would like to, but I'm just too busy. But I wanted to hear what you guys are watching on Netflix. And it doesn't have to be a Netflix original series or a Netflix original movie, just something available on Netflix. And I'm going to talk about a couple of those each episode. And I put a post on my Facebook yesterday, and I got an overwhelming response. Thank you so much for everybody who responded to my question. And I would like to go over all of them, but I'm actually going to save them, and I'm going to talk about a couple each week. So I'm going to go with the first ones that were mentioned to me this week, and I'm going to read the synopsis, so then you guys can have a better idea if it's something that you feel that you might want to watch. So the first one came from James Higgins, and he says that he watches Dark. And he says it is the best foreign language Netflix series yet. And according to Wikipedia, the premise behind Dark is, here's what it says. When local children in a fictional German town of Winden start disappearing, it brings to light the fractured relationships, double lives, and dark pasts of 4 families living there, revealing a mystery that spans 3 generations. The series follows Jonas Conwald, a teenager struggling to cope with his father's suicide, police officer Ulrich Nielsen, whose brother disappeared 33 years ago, and police chief Charlotte Doppler. Beginning in 2019, the story soon spreads to include storylines in 1986 and 1953 via time travel, as certain characters of the show's core family slowly grow aware of the existence of the wormhole in the cave system beneath the local nuclear power plant under the management of the influential Tiedemann family. During the first season, the secrets of Conwald, Nielsen, Doppler, and Tiedemann families begin to be revealed, and their lives start to crumble as the ties between the disappeared children and the history of the town and its citizens become evident. So that's Dark, a Netflix original series. And I'm reading these for the first time, so because I'm looking for new shows to watch, obviously. And so I'm going to read these premises and, make my decisions from there. So Dark definitely sounds really good. So that, again, came from James Higgins. The next one comes from Caleb, Virginia, and April, who all recommended Stranger Things. And this one has been incredibly popular on Netflix. They've already released a season 2. Let me just quickly read you the premise. Stranger Things is set in a fictional rural town of Hawkins, Indiana during the early 1980s. The nearby Hawkins National Laboratory ostensibly performs scientific research for the United States Department of Energy, but secretly does experiments into the paranormal and supernatural, including those that involved human test subject. Inadvertently, they have created a portal to an alternate dimension called the Upside Down. The influence of the Upside Down starts to affect the unknowing residents of Hawkins, in calamitous ways. The first season begins in November 1983 when Will Byers is abducted by a creature from the Upside Down. His mother Joyce and the town's police chief Jim Hopper search for Will. At the same time, a young psychokinetic girl called 11 escapes from the laboratory and assists Will's friends Mike, Destin, and Lucas in their own efforts to find Will. The second season is set up a year later, starting in October 1984. Will has been rescued, but few know of the details of the events. When it's discovered that Will is still being influenced by the entities from the Upside Down, his friends and family learn they're a larger threat to the universe from the Upside Down. The third season is currently planned to take place another year later in 1985. In the midst of the popularity of Back to the Future's release, Mike and 11 have developed a relationship, as have Max and Lucas. So both of those shows sound incredibly good. Dark, recommended by James, and Stranger Things, recommended by Caleb, Virginia, and April. Thanks so much for your recommendations. That's my podcast this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. I don't know what the topic's going to be. I know last week we wanted to talk about self-driving vehicles, and I do plan on tackling that in a future episode, maybe next week or sometime later. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and hopefully you enjoyed enough to give it a 5-star rating. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.